also psychological damage has been done to us. So reparations are required, and reparations should be paid. And the perpetrators should pay those reparations, just like they require criminals to pay reparations for their crimes. The perpetrators of America, they should pay reparations.
Okay, thank you. Lonnie, is it true that American prosperity has been built on 2.5 centuries of slavery? Is that?
I agree, and you know when people like to counter argue reparations, and they include other groups that has been done wrong by the European nation, they seem to forget that, like Brother Rudy said, that reparations were given to those other nations, and but every time we bring up the reparation argument for our people, of course we get pushback by the government, by the society, and the counter argument is, it varies from, some try to argue on a legal term. Back then it was considered legal, so there's no legal foundation to argue that, but since if it was illegal then under legal terms it was no crime committed. But on a realistic, historical term, everything that they have gained, it was through the destruction of black people, whether, you have them in the fields no less than 12 hours, sun up to sundown, and like they said, even the cotton industry, with the major in the South, and we got the worst of the cotton products, which cause all type of, who knows, but I just feel that, this is the issue that we need to push, because they're not going to give it to us. I don't believe that they're going to just hand it over, so, we're going to have to demand and get together if we're for real about this.
Okay, Jeffrey, what do you have to say about that? Two and a half centuries of slavery, American prosperity. It says, according to Ta-Nehisi Coates, that has been deepened by years of discrimination, segregation, and racist housing policy. What do you have to say about that?
Well, definitely, it is definitely a tragedy that this remains an issue so far. But if you go with the over 250 years, we're talking about specifically the time between around the 1600s, early 1600s to about 1865. That's what we were talking about specifically, but it actually goes even further than that. It goes even past the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, on through the Black Codes and sharecropping, all the way up to civil rights. We have still not been compensated. What follows a nation when they actually admit something being done wrong to a nation of people, the only just thing to do is to compensate those people. So that kind of makes you wonder, well, why have we not been compensated? Well, could it be possibly that we're living in a illusion of freedom instead of that being the reality for what we're facing? A lot of us are caught up in illusions, and we don't understand law, so we don't understand the trickery that's being dished to us. So that's something that we have to continue to research and be skeptical and be critical of our legal status here in the nation in which we live. And if we haven't been compensated for wrongs that have been done to our ancestors throughout the years and generations, then we have to question our actual position right now. Are we really as free as we think we are? Are we in fact free at all? Because the lack of reparations, it sets us up to always be in a lower class. And because we're in a lower class and we don't have have this access to these resources, that makes us, that leaves us powerless. And remaining powerless over a length of time can also cause us to be hopeless. But it's not time to be hopeless. It's time to put these topics in the forefront, and it's time to educate our people, and it's time to make these demands in the society in which we live. And that demand is for reparation and compensation of our ancestors for the violent acts of slavery, and not only the violent acts of slavery, but also the violent acts of post-slavery. You know, with the new black codes, sharecropping, and even coming on today, it's just racism all around. Even police brutality has a time that, because the police were actually overseers of property, and the property being the slaves, that being black folk.
Okay, the number to call is 901-327-3400. And Omar, these wounds we're talking about at this point have never been healed or atoned for. Is that right? Excuse me. Got a little flu. But Tanishi, coach, says that until the American system addresses these issues, it is a system of hypocrisy. The moral debt that still remains is in fact a system of hypocrisy. Go ahead and address that. What do you say about that, Omar?
You know, when you look at the World War II, when the attack on Pearl Harbor took place, 10 weeks after that attack, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which allowed the United States government to incarcerate over 100,000 Japanese citizens of America, many of them born in America, knew nothing about Japan except what their parents had told them. And they were put behind barbed wire fences, and they were kept there until the end of the war. And when they were released, they weren't even given an apology. They lost their jobs, their homes, their businesses, and they had to start life all over again. And it wasn't until Ronald Reagan, and it wasn't that generation that protested. They came out and really didn't speak much about the incarceration in the concentration camps. And it wasn't until 1978 that a group of Japanese called the Japan Citizens League came together, some generations later, came together and decided they wanted to get a redress of what had happened to their parents. And they put that petition out and started gathering support for it and took it before Congress. And Senator Mineta came up and had that bill put on the floor where they could give reparations to these Japanese citizens. And Ronald Reagan signed that bill August 10th of 1988, first apologizing to the Japanese for what happened to them, and then giving each one of them $20,000 cash money, tax-free, as reparations for what happened to them. I think that same thing should be done to us as African Americans who have suffered more, who have suffered longer, who have suffered deeper than any other nation on earth. And we deserve reparations more than anybody else who's gotten reparations.
In fact, that's not a lot of money.
No.
And according to John Locke, he says that by our unpaid labor and suffering, we've earned the right to the soil. So it sounds kind of like a meal copper brought, return to the source. He says many times over and over. And now we are determined to have it. John Locke, this is what John Locke says. So he's sounding right there a little bit like Hugh, Jeffrey, and Lonnie. Speak to that, if you don't mind.
Now, did he say soil? We have right to the soil.
We have a right to the soil.
Absolutely, we have right to the soil. And you can help me with this a little bit, but I know the first guy who said something about us, about once the slaves are free, if you don't give them anything, then you're going to set them up for perpetual slavery. No matter if you legally free them or not, you're going to set them up for legal slavery. So he proposed, I think that was General Sherman. That was General Sherman that first suggested 40 acres and a mule for all the slaves. At the very beginning when they were contemplating emancipation, the proposal to compensate them was soil at the beginning, so it should always remain that.
Okay. We've got 2 callers on the line. Who's first, Isaac?
Who we have on the line?
Mr. Allen, what's up, how you doing, Mr. Redd?
Hey, Alan, take 2 minutes and give us your take on
I
it.
thought about something. You know, we didn't ask for the government to give us something. Color is a good African American brother. He's making sure that everybody has the ability to be insured, but they take a vote to reject that. Now, should we get out and start voting? You know, a lot of people don't even vote, and they want reparations. We can't get it like this. I'm going to give you an example. You know how African Americans come together because those young guys in the rap world, like Steve Henning, Dr. Dre, these guys are millionaires. We are so righteous and educated, we can't come together. But like Jay-Z, Dr. Dre, what's the other guy's name? Ice Cube, I don't know his real name. They doing pretty good for being uneducated guys. And you know that gang members, they come together. They are immoral people, but they come together. I'm saying we wrestle with all this like jealousy and educated for these degrees on our walls, so we can come together. Because I'm jealous. The Bible said they even in Genesis.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave you with that.
All right, thank you for calling.
All right.
Omar, I see you smiling. I think you want to take that one, and then we're going to go to our next call. Isaac.
Okay, hold on, Carl. You know, the trickery is to keep black folks separated so they won't come together.
Is that a chip off the old block of Divide and Conquer?
It is. It's a page out of his book of tricknology.
Okay.
He has never changed since he got here to the planet Earth.
Okay. All right. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
Come on in, Brother Balewa.
Yes.
In the interest of time, take a couple of minutes and break it down for us.
I love the topic of today.
All right.
I think it is true. And as they mentioned about the land, well, there's another very, very important commodity to us all. Is our body. Do you know, being from Louisiana, I am a witness. I'm soon to be 70 years old. Really, really good though. I escaped. I managed to get past all of the food that was given to slaves. We do that back too. The reason it's so hard today, Brother Wallace, and the rest of the community, to reach our people about nutrition is that, yes, I do know it's hard, but a great blow was thrown to us. It threw us out of sync. It threw us totally out of sync. Everything that I hear going on this morning on the radio has been beautiful. This is the things we need to focus on.
Okay.
We need to free our minds from mental slavery, number one.
All right, thank you for your call.
All right, free our minds. Here's a question, and I want to go back to you, Omar, and there's a particular reason for it. Is it true that between 1882 and 1968, more black people were lynched in Mississippi than any other state?
You know,
This is according to Ta-Nehisi Coates. And let me just say that our questions primarily are coming from his essay, A Case for Reparations. And we're going to say a few things about John Conyers and Charles Ogletree when we get down to what must be done and who must do it. Come on, Omar.
You know, when it comes to lynching, black folk have been the victims of white folks since white folks, and in fact, lynching hardly took place before slavery ended, because we were considered property and they didn't want to damage or destroy their property beyond repair. They wanted to make sure the slave was able to go to work the next day. They beat the hell out of him. They wouldn't kill him. And so when a slave was killed, it was a very rare occasion that he was actually killed. Now when the slave was freed after the war was over, then lynching became a tool to keep black folk in their place. Because white folks felt like the slave had a place, he had gotten out of his place, and they wanted to make sure he knew where his place was, and if he got out of place, they made him an example for the whole community to see, especially the black community. They had a joyous occasion. They came out dressed in their Sunday finest when they came to lynch black people. And even children came to the lynching, and they would get articles like fingers and toes and other body parts that they could buy as souvenirs. And when you looked at the pictures of lynching, you found these people like they were going to church. they were going to have a religious holy celebration when a black man was being killed on the cross. So it was a way to keep us in check, and it's still a way to keep us in check even today.
And we see these accountings documented across the pages of history. Is that right?
Correct.
Another quick question, Lonnie. A man or woman who protested the slave arrangement did so at the risk of grave injury or death. Refusing to work meant arrest under vagrancy laws and forced labor under the slave system. How horrible is that as a human being? And should we offer some serious strike back? Come on, Lonnie, speak to it.
Are you referring to other races that helped us, or are you referring to, our people, period, that had any contribution under that time, the free?
I'm glad you raised that question because, and I thank you, Omar, for being specific. Let us be specific about who are we talking about, who we are talking about. Let's get away from they, and let's call them specifically the dominant class, the slaveholder, what do you want to call them, but let's get away from they. So we're talking about the slaveholders against black people during this particular era that we're talking about, coming out of slavery, going into Jim Crow, and lynching. This is what we're talking about.
Okay. From what I understand, it goes to that state of, hypocrisy, I feel. When you brought up the question of hypocrisy,
yes.
how could this show hypocrisy? Because, this nation was, following the religion of Christianity. Okay, so.
Yes.
And the thing about that is, like he was just saying about these lynchings, they will announce those in the sermons. Hey, such o'clock Monday morning, we're going to lynch this Negro. He has been accused of such crime as winking at a white woman. Nothing wrong.
Yes.
So we're going to make an example for the other brothers.
Yes.
And they were just preaching from the scripture. But the thing of the hypocrisy about that is, even slavery was in the scriptures. And for a specific group of people, even, they try to justify it because slavery is saying.
The slaveholders trying to justify it.
Right, they try to justify that. But, that's one key reason why they made a system where, designed, like if you try to read, hey, I got to make an example out of you. If you read the scriptures about even the slavery, the laws for slavery, they were supposed to be compensated after 7 years,
Right.
And they were supposed to be, it was up to them if they wanted to make another contract with the slave owner. So, you see the hypocrisy there,
Right.
They teach you this, but then they don't want you to read and see that, there was slavery, but there was also compensation. And that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about. Compensation, reparation. And Omar just spoke. That's a great parallel. Excuse me. But anyway, you bring up an interesting point, and that is the slaveholders gave Christians, gave the slaves, gave them their religion, gave them their Bible. Should I, this is going over the border of borderline insanity. Should I expect the slaveholder to give me something good and saying that it's okay here on earth to suffer these atrocious beatings and lynchings? And have you seen the picture of the man with all the scars on, this famous infamous picture? And then because you get your pie in the sky, once you leave here and go to heaven, and then Dr. Richmond was just talking about that, and you have individuals running around here, holding on to that brand, that specifically, hear me, that brand of Christianity and that version of the Bible. Jeffrey, I want to go to you now. What is required for black people to receive reparations? Let me compound a couple questions upon you, and I believe you can have it. What kind of people, such as Charles Oglethorpe, John Conyers, the congressman, and Charles Oglethorpe, he teaches law at at Harvard School? What is required? What kind of